Welcome to study session 6, Conflict and Conflict Management. Introduction. Conflict is a fact of life, be it formal or non-formal setting. It occurs because of competition among individuals for the promotion of their interest over and above that of other group members. Disagreements leading to conflicts have become a common feature of contemporary organizations in unionized establishments. Demands for better wages, better welfare package, perceived wrongful implementation of contractual agreements between management and workers' union, and improved working conditions have emerged as some of the causes of conflicts in the workplace. And even though constructive conflicts should be desired by all, the goal of organizations is to reduce the frequency of conflicts in the workplace because of its negative effects on workers' well-being and productivity. Objectives. At the end of this lecture, the students will be expected to 1. Explain what conflict is and to identify different types of conflict. 2. Identify some of the factors that cause conflict in organizations. 3. Describe the various methods by which conflict in organizations can be managed. How pervasive is conflict in human society? Historically, conflict has remained a common feature of human society and occurs in all relationships, irrespective of whether the relationship is between family members, co-workers, or between workers and management. Competition for scarce resource, power struggle, technological advancement, workplace diversity, and perceived denial of access to a valued resource can lead to conflict in work organizations. Also, it is commonly perceived, take two. Also, it is commonly believed that factors such as differences in perceptions, interests, goals, and needs among and between individuals can lead to disagreements with the potential of escalating to conflict in group settings. Conflict in work organizations are becoming increasingly more frequent since the turn of the century in both developed and developing economies, with radicalized conflicts stifling industrial growth and development. The consequences of conflicts have elicited divergent views from scholars and practitioners alike, with some supporting while others are in opposition. On the one hand, antagonists advocate that conflict should be avoided at all costs, basing their reasons on unpalatable effects of conflicts such as production disruptions, delivery failure, threats to industrial harmony, and loss of revenue. Types of conflict. In analyzing the sources of conflict, Deutsch, 1973, averred that conflict is inevitable wherever incompatible activities exist. The reason is because the existence of an incompatible action blocks the other action, rendering it ineffective or inefficient. Intrapersonal conflict. This represents the conflicts that arise within the individual. It is an internal conflict because it springs from the decisions or choices that each individual has to make, which has effect on the organization. Examples include whether or not to accept or request for gratification, decision to go to work when one is not feeling well. Interpersonal conflict. This occurs because of incompatible actions between two or more individuals. Misperception of the actions or intentions of a co-worker can create conflict situation between two employees. Intra-group conflict. This is the type of conflict that occurs within the context of a group, such as members of a department or team. Disagreements or dissatisfaction regarding the sharing of resources, allocation of responsibilities, and other group activities can lead to conflict. Intergroup conflict. Many different groups exist within an organization. Differences between two departments can lead to intergroup conflict. For example, the marketing department may feel that they need more marketers in order to increase sales volume, while the finance department may argue against such moves. When there are differences between what departments consider as needful, the stage is set for conflict. Inter-organizational conflict. This type occurs when the conflict is between two or more organizations. Competition for customers and attitude towards regulatory policies can cause disaffection between organizations within the same industry. Characteristics of conflict. Conflict can be distinguished by what Omoluabi 1995 termed constituent elements, which include 1. For conflict to be meaningful, it must involve at least two parties, groups or individuals or views. 2. Conflict is a complex, multi-dimensional construct that encompasses different aspects of individuals and group behaviors. 3. The views and interests of parties in conflict are polarized. 4. The resolution of conflict usually requires Take 2. 4. The resolution of conflict usually requires the involvement of a third party. 5. A conflict can be resolved partially or totally. 6. Conflict resolution is effective when the third party that is respected and perceived as neutral by disputants. 7. The resolution of a conflict may be permanent or temporary. Organizational conflict. Conflict is inevitable in organizations because they function by means of adjustments and compromises among competitive elements in their structure and membership. From the organizational context, conflict can be described as any situation that triggers disruptions of the normal stability and harmony within an organization because of perceived and actual relative inequity. Reward system. The reward system in an organization can give rise to conflict. Rewards include such things as promotion, transfer, benefits, leave, and salary. In most organizations, the true performance of the organization is not communicated to employees, which leads to a situation where workers often believe that they are shortchanged by management. The controversy, dissatisfaction, and distrust that employees feel towards management because of low wages often leads to conflict. Collective disputes. Management's refusal to accede to demands made by unions such as salaries, loans, rent, allowance, and so on, or a refusal to negotiate with a union or its representatives can lead to conflicts in organizations. Also, when union perceives that management has breached aspects of legislation on employment or is selective in implementing provisions of collective agreement, disagreement often ensues, which usually leads to conflict. Other causes of conflict among selected firms in Nigeria, according to Chauvin 2006, are 1. High quest for power. 2. Task interdependence. 3. Organizational structure. 4. Organizational politics. 5. Personality. 6. Leadership. 7. Ambiguous policies, rules, and decisions. 8. Generational gap in leadership. Conflict management in organizations. Conflict management refers to methods used in identifying or recognizing the underlying causes of disagreements and disputes and dealing with them in a rational, balanced, and effective way. There is a growing need for organizations to explore ways of managing conflicts since contemporary business environment has increased potential for conflicts in modern organizations. The fact that conflicts cannot be avoided in organizations underscores the need for management and other stakeholders to seek for and adopt effective means of responding to them to prevent escalation. Wharton and Cameron 2002 developed 5 strategies that can be used for managing conflict in organizations. In practice, rather than being mutually exclusive, 2 or more of these approaches are used in combination to resolve conflict situations. These strategies are highlighted below. Forcing. This strategy involves display of lack of concern for the other party. When resolutely pursuing one's position, forcing enhances the chances of one party to the dispute having their way, while the other is left feeling humiliated and defeated. Forcing is less effective in resolving conflicts involving highly trained employees, as demonstrated by the recent face-off between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) over non-implementation of an agreement government signed with the union since 2009. Avoiding. People who use this strategy usually have little or no interest in pursuing either of their own concerns or those of the other disputants in the conflict. This may happen because they consider the issues involved as trivial and unimportant. Compromising. With this technique, the parties to the conflict share a common goal of reaching compromise quickly. It is a give and take strategy involving moderate concern for self and others. This strategy is effective in situations where it is important to agree on expedient solutions on very complex issues, as prolonging the conflict can hurt all parties severely. Accommodating. A disputant may adopt this strategy when the issue at stake is of less importance and to one party than the other. The main objective here is not to upset the other party. Collaborating. Here, parties to the dispute are communicated. Take 2. Here, parties to the dispute are committed to working together amicably towards finding a mutual beneficial solution to all contentious issues. The approach works on the principle of no winner, no vanquished. The advantage of this strategy is that it fosters a feeling of satisfaction and increases commitment of all parties to the organization. Collaboration works best in situations where there is mutual trust between the conflicting parties. The approach is also referred to as confronting or problem-solving technique. Alternative dispute resolution (ADR). Sometimes there may be the need for the involvement of a third party in resolving conflicts. One such method is known as alternative dispute resolution. ADR is increasingly becoming popular as a mechanism for settling disputes because it is a more constructive, less time-consuming, and less expensive approach to resolving conflicts. There are 6 techniques in ADR in progressing order of difficult, beginning from the easiest and least expensive to the most difficult and costly. 1. Facilitation. There is the involvement of a high-ranking organizational member, such as manager, in dispute resolution. It is an informal strategy in which the manager urges the disputant to deal directly with each other in a positive and constructive manner. Conciliation. This technique is employed when parties in the conflict refuse to hold face-to-face meeting. In such situation, A third party is called upon to act as a communication conduit between the disputing parties. The third party's long-term goal is to help in finding a common ground and a constructive solution to the crisis. Peer review. This consists of a panel of trustworthy co-workers who are selected for their ability to remain objective. Whether the decision reached by the panel will be binding or not depends on the ADR policy in the organization. Note that membership of the peer review is not permanent but is related among employees. Ombudsman. An ombudsman is someone who works with the organization and who is highly respected and trusted by co-workers. His job is to attempt to arrange solutions after hearing grievances from parties in conflict on a confidential basis. Mediation. A mediator is a trained neutral third party who actively guides disputants in exploring innovative solutions to the conflict. They strive to offer advice and suggestions that can lead to the end of the conflict without parties to the conflict losing face. Arbitration. This technique extracts commitment ahead of time from parties to the dispute, stating that they will abide by the decisions preferred by a neutral arbitrator. This usually takes place in a court-like setting, with witnesses as well as evidence and decisions made are based on legal merit of each case. Strategies for stimulating programmed conflicts. Organizational development suffers in an environment where conflict is either too much or too little. But that is not to say that organizations should work towards creating a conflict-free work environment, as doing so portends more detrimental consequences for organizational progress because it can stifle innovation and creativity. To stimulate innovation, commitment, and creativity among employees, there may be a need to engage in programmed conflict, defined as conflict that raises different opinions regardless of the personal opinion or feelings of managers. Devil's advocate is a programmed conflict technique that involves assigning someone the role of a critic of group consensus or agreement in order to stimulate constructive arguments or debates over a proposal. 1. A proposed course of action is generated. 2. Devil's advocate is assigned to criticize the proposal. 3. The critique is presented to key decision makers. 4. Any additional information relevant to the proposal is gathered. 5. The decision to adopt, modify, or discontinue the proposed course of action is taken. The decision is monitored. Restructuring. Another form of programmed conflict is restructuring. Restructuring, also known as reorganization, is a strategy for introducing change into an organization with the intention that the resulting discomfort might arouse employees to think more creatively in making adjustments to the new situation. In adjusting to the new situation, relationships are affected due to the influence of the change process on employees, work-related attitudes, and behaviors. Summary of study session. In this study session, we learned what conflict is and to identify different types of conflict. We also identified some of the factors that can cause conflicts in organizations. Lastly, we described the various methods by which conflicts in organizations can be managed.